Oh, hey everybody. I've been thinking about my own whatnot journey. I'm actually a lawyer and I sell sterling silver jewelry 3 times a week on Whatnot, uh, an auction site, live auction site. And I thought, why? Why am I doing this? And I've been doing it for the jewelry about 3.5 years. In my life, I was never interested in jewelry. I was always interested in art, in beautiful paintings, books, photography, things like that. Anyway, uh, so I discovered jewelry quite by accident, and I thought, I'm going to try it. I discovered it by watching Dr. Lori on YouTube, and she started talking about jewelry. I always liked the thrill of the hunt when it came to anything that I was reselling. And I'll go into a whole reselling journey in another video. I'm just going to talk about Whatnot today, the website. So what happened was I bought a few things of jewelry and I started selling it on there and it was doing okay. And then I got the opportunity to buy a big collection of very vintage jewelry that was owned by a lady who was 80 years old, and it was left to her by her mother, who had died 20 years before, who'd been collecting jewelry all her life. So I bought this huge collection. It was 26 banker's boxes and tubs filled with vintage jewelry. I had no clue what I was buying. I just knew it was good. All right. Anyway, so right away it took off right away on Whatnot. People started buying, and but the thing that I loved, it was the jewelry was one thing. Like I'd say, why are you bidding so much for that? I would start everything like at $10, and they were going up to huge amounts of money. And I thought, why? And they would tell me. I mean, people are very honest. So I started realizing the jewelry community on Whatnot is an incredible body of human beings. There are so many wonderful people in that community, and that was what kept me motivated and keeps me motivated. So I now focus on sterling silver jewelry. Really beautiful. It's beautiful. It's art as well, and it's got an intrinsic value because, of course, it's jewelry. It's sterling silver plus gemstones and things like that. That part's interesting, but what's more interesting is or are the conversations that we have uh, on online. So when I start my shows, because I have a lot of people that come to my shows. As soon as I click start show, uh, as soon as I click it, there's like 40, 50, 60 people in my room that have some new buyers and a lot of continuing buyers. And it starts right away, on the side there's a chat thing. So, people are typing in hello, and I say, hello, how are you? How's your afternoon? How's your evening? Or whatever time of day it is. Okay. But what blows me away is how caring the people are that come to my shows. If someone comes on there and they say, for example, that their dog passed away or their cat passed away, or there's a family member that's sick or they're sick or or something. Everybody joins in and they put hearts in the chat. They put prayer hands in the chat and they say, please, I hope you're going to be okay. And then they chat back and forth while I'm selling the jewelry. And it's such a warm feeling. And the other thing is and you feel this connection. I feel a connection with a lot of the people that buy from me, and that's kind of the vibe that's in my show. And I always like at the end of the show because we usually have about 60 or 70 shipments of multiple items that go out to different people for each 3 or 4 or 5 hour show. And I always send literally a personalized note to each person for their box, and they get it in their box. Um, and um, and it's sort of the community that has been created is just so uplifting. And I think about the people when I after I click off and I end the show. And I usually move all the people into another show. It's called a raid. That's what we do. We raid another show. So I've got, if there are 50 people left in my room at the end of the show, oh, I got a bruise on my hand. See that? Where'd it go? Oh, this hand. Yeah, I got a bruise on my hand. It's ugly. Oof. Don't look. Anyway, um, they they go into another show, and it's like an ongoing project for the day, or an ongoing show for the day. They start with me, and then I move them into another show, and then throughout my show, people, when they close up, they send people to my show, and it's a really, this whatnot thing. Whoever put it together is an absolute genius, because because it's social. It's like social media, but it's also a selling platform. And people, at least people in my shows, I hope, when they buy the sterling silver jewelry, what I've noticed is it's meaningful to them. Like, so maybe they buy a brooch. I knew nothing about I didn't even know what a brooch was. Anyway, like maybe they buy it when I started all this. Maybe they buy a brooch. God damn, look at that. Maybe they buy a brooch, okay? And they say, um, oh my God, that reminds me of my grandma, or reminds me of my daughter, or reminds me of my sister that passed away, or it reminds me of my mom. And it just, and I had to have it. I had to buy that. I just had to have it. And or there's religious religious jewelry that I'll sell, crosses, and there's some really, really gorgeous pieces. I mean, you look, it's just spectacular. And Native American jewelry with, turquoise and coral and sterling silver, and signed on the back by the Native American artist, like a Navajo or Hopi or Zuni member, tribe member, and there's value in that as well. Um, anyway, so for people, when people buy the jewelry, I've noticed there's meaning to it. So it gives it, like, it's not just money. When they buy it from me, they're paying for something that makes them feel connected to maybe a an earlier life, or something they want to give to somebody. Um, and uh, anyway, that's kind of it. Come to my shows; you'll be blown away. And okay, so, by the camaraderie, and then the other thing is, you'll also see I'm starting a pod. Well, this is the first in the podcast with other whatnot sellers and their whatnot journeys, and how they started in reselling, and then somewhere along the way, and then got into whatnot, or they started with whatnot. I personally, I'll have to tell you very quickly. I personally started before I became a lawyer, back in the early or late 80s and early 90s. I lived up in San Francisco, and I had a store in Oakland, which was called Spike's Recycled Games, and it started off as a video store. But I ended up somehow getting into Nintendo games, the 8-bit Nintendo games. And people would come in. What I would do is I would buy, well, and then Super Nintendo came out. So I would buy like 50 of the latest, greatest Super Nintendo games, from the distributor, brand new sealed. And then I would let people come in, and they would bring they would bring in like 10 or 15 or 20 games, used games, like Sega Genesis or Super or Nintendo, or even Super Nintendo at that point, or was that Turbo something 16? I can't even remember what it's called. Anyway, and so the games would cost me, I think they cost me, back in those days, it was either 54.95 each or 59.95 each. They were very expensive wholesale. So I would have them pay me like $20 or $25 for the game, and give me 10 used or 15 used or 20 used video games, depending on their value. And so I built up this whole inventory of used games, which of course work just as well as new games, as you guys probably already know if you are into video games at all. Anyway, so I got the bug back then, like, what is that, 30, 36, 37 years ago, for reselling. And and then I became, because it was so exciting. People would come in, and, well, I'll go into that in another video. Anyway, but then from there I moved on, and when I became a lawyer, eBay had just really started coming out. And so I started selling. I, on the weekends, I would go to garage sales and I didn't have my store anymore. I would buy whatever I could find that I thought would sell. And I would go on eBay. This before there was even pictures on eBay sometimes. And I would go on eBay and sell stuff. It was usually like videos or things like that. Because I just love that kind of thing. And then, and then after a while, I went on to, let's see, about 10 years ago or 8 years ago, I started selling things on Amazon, which was also kind of fun. And then I slowed down with all that stuff. And then I don't know what happened. And then I just got into whatnot. And it was like a whole world. You guys should really try it. Anyway, I don't know what the hell I'm going on and on and on about. This is it. I'm not even going to edit this video. I am just going to post it. Okay. So, and I'll have some information in the thing below, whatever that is. And subscribe. Enjoy. Click a yeah, hi, I like this, or I don't like it, or something. I don't care. Whatever you like. Whatever you want to say. All right. Let's see what I do. Is pause, pause, pause. Stop.